Good afternoon, everybody. The Supreme Court has put out its order list today at 9:30 this morning, and the Raylan J. Brunson versus Alma S. Adams, docket number 22380, has not been chosen to be heard. So I wanted to let my Supreme Court justices know that I'm extremely disappointed, as I believe most Americans that are aware of this case and understand what it means for our country are disappointed that this case wasn't picked up to be heard. And so I wanted to go ahead and read the petition. So it's not a surprise that it wasn't picked up for many of us. I know for me personally, I'm so grateful for the Brunson brothers and what they've been doing, and I'm sure we'll probably continue to petition. Maybe they'll appeal. I'm not sure what gets to happen next, but I just feel like it's important for anyone who hasn't had the opportunity, wanted to, and didn't get the chance to go and look up the actual petition and the details of what this was about, to hear it. And I thought, well, let's make it simple, and I'll just read it to everybody. God bless you all for coming here, taking your time out to check on the status of this petition. And so interestingly enough, there was another case that is pending. So and that's Erica Jacobs versus Geisinger Wyoming Medical Center, and that's docket number 22-5419. If anyone's interested to see what that's about, it's kind of interesting that was picked up. So here's the reason why 388 members of our Congress and our president and vice president and Pence would rather not have this case picked up by the Supreme Court. So here we go. I'm not going to be able to converse in the chat, but I wanted you all to have a chance to comment in the chat while I'm reading this. So I'm not ignoring you. Talk amongst yourselves and state your comments, your opinions. I will not be censoring any negative opinions. If trolls come in and are purposely trying to disrupt what I'm doing here, and I'm just simply reading the petition, my mods are definitely able to get rid of any disruptions of what we're trying to do here. But please feel free to share your opinions, either for or against the petition. What are your opinions about the Supreme Court's decision not to pick it up? And here we go. I have a little bit of coffee next to me, and it's quite a number of pages. Don't worry, you're not going to offend me if you can't stay on live. You can always come back and listen to anything that you missed. So one sip of coffee and off we go. Oh, except I'm on the wrong page. Okay, I did want to tell you, this was a Monday, January 9th, 2023, certiorari summary dispositions. Then you have your whole list of 2 there. Then you have orders and pending cases, which are not nearly as many as those denied. And then you come into certiorari denied, starts on page 3. Our favored case here was on page 5. The 22380 Brunson Rowland J. V. Adams verse Adams Alma S. ETAL was on page 5 of Many, many, many pages of denials. All right, so let's go to actual case. Okay, so this petition to the Supreme Court of the United States was filed at the Supreme Court on October 20th, 2022, at the Office of the Clerk. So here we go. In the Supreme Court of the United States, Roland J. Brunson, petitioner, v. Alma S. Adams, ETAL, respondents, on petition for writ of certiorari to the United States Court of Appeals for the 10th Circuit, petition for a writ of certiorari, Roland J. Brunson, his information, address, etc., petitioner in pro se. Questions presented. A serious conflict exists between decisions rendered from this court and lower appeal courts, along with constitutional provisions and statutes, in deciding whether or not the trial court has jurisdiction to try the merits of this case. This case uncovers a serious national security breach that is unique and is of first impression. And due to the serious nature of this case, it involves the possible removal of a sitting president and vice president of the United States, along with members of the United States Congress, while deeming them unfit from ever holding office under federal, state, county, or local governments found within the United States of America. And at the same time, the trial court also has the authority to be validated by this court to authorize the swearing in of the legal and rightful heirs for President and Vice President of the United States. In addition, there are two doctrines that conflict with each other found in this case, affecting every court in this country. These doctrines are known as the doctrine of equitable maxim and the doctrine of the object principle of justice. Equitable maxim created by this court, which the lower court used to dismiss this case, sets in direct violation of the object principle of justice, also partially created by this court and supported by other appeal courts and constitutional provisions. These conflicts call for the supervisory power of this court to resolve these conflicts, which has not but should be settled by this court without delay. Parties to the proceeding. Petitioner Roland J. Brunson is an individual representing himself and is a plaintiff in the trial court. The following 388 respondents are a party to this action as defendants in the trial court. I'm reading these. Named persons in their capacities as United States House Representatives: Alma S. Adams, Pete Aguilar, Colin Z. Alred, Mark E. Amode, Kelly Armstrong, Jake Auchincloss, Cynthia Axney, Don Bacon, Troy Balderson, Andy Barr, Nanette Diaz Barragan, Karen Bass, Joyce Beatty, Ami Berra, Donald S. Byer Jr., Gus M. Ilarakis, Sanford D. Bishop Jr., Earl Blumenauer, Lisa Blunt Rochester, Suzanne Bonamici, Carolyn Bordeaux, Jamal Bowman, Brendan F. Boyle, Kevin Brady, Anthony J. Brown, Julia Brownlee, Vern Buchanan, Ken Buck, Larry Buxton, Corey Bush, Cherie Bustos, G. K. Butterfield, Salud O. Carbajal, Tony Cardenas, Andre Carson, Matt Cartwright, Ed Case, Sean Caston, Kathy Castor, Joaquin Castro, Liz Cheney, Judy Chu, David N. Sicilian, Catherine M. Clark, Yvette D. Clark, Emmanuel Cleaver, James E. Clyburn, Steve Cohen, James Comer, Gerald E. Connolly, Jim Cooper, J. Lewis Correa, Jim Costa, Joe Courtney, Angie Craig, Dan Crenshaw, Charlie Christ, Jason Crow, Henry Cuellar, Cuellar, John R. Curtis, Sharice Davids, Danny K. Davis, Rodney Davis, Madeline Dean, Peter A. DeFazio, Diana DeGette, Rosal Delaro, Delauro, Delaro, Suzanne K. Delbean, Antonio Delgado, Val Butler Demings, Mark DeSaulnier, Theodore E. Dutch, Debbie Dingle, Lloyd Doggett, Michael F. Doyle, Tom Emmer, Veronica Escobar, Anna G. Ashew, Adriano S. Palat, Dwight Evans, Randy Feenstra, A. Drew Ferguson IV, Brian K. Fitzpatrick, Lizzie Letcher, Jeff Fortenberry, Bill Foster, Louis Frankel, Marcia L. Fudge, Mike Gallagher, Ruben Gallego, John Garmendy, Andrew R. Garbarino, Sylvia R. Garcia, Jesus G. Garcia, Jared F. Golden, Jimmy Gomez, Tony Gonzalez, Anthony Gonzalez, Vincent Gonzalez, Josh Gottheimer, Kay Granger, Al Green, Raul M. Grijalva, Glenn Grothman, Brett Guthrie, Deborah A. Holland, Josh Harder, Elsie L. Hastings, Johanna Hayes, James Herrera Butler, Butler, Beutler, Brian Higgins, J. French Hill, James A. Himes, Ashley Henson, Trey Hollingsworth, Stephen Horsford, Chrissy Holohan, Steenie H. Hoyer, Jared Huffman, Bill Huzenga, Sheila Jackson Lee, Sarah Jacobs, Pramila Jayapal, Hakeem S. Jeffries, Dusty Johnson, Eddie Bernice Johnson, Henry C. Johnson Jr., Mondaire Jones, David P. Joyce, Kalia Cahill, Marcy Capture, John Katko, William R. Keating, Ro Canna, Daniel T. Kildee, Derek Kilmer, Andy Kim, Young Kim, Ron Kind, Adam Kinzinger, Ann Kirkpatrick, Raja Krishnamurthy, Ann M. Custer with a K, Darren LaHood, Connor Lamb, James R. Langevin, Rick Larson, John B. Larson, Robert E. Latta, Jake LaTurner, Brenda L. Lawrence, Al Lawson Jr., Barbara Lee, Susie Lee, Teresa Leaguer Fernandez, Andy Levine, Mike Levine, Ted Lieu, L-I-E-U, Ted L-I-E-U, Lou, Zoe Lofgren, Alan S. Lowenthal, Elaine G. Loria, Stephen F. Lynch, Nancy Mace, Tom Malinowski, Carolyn B. Maloney, Sean Patrick Maloney, Kathy E. Manning, Thomas Massey, Doris O. Matsu, Lucy McBath, Michael T. McCall, Tom McClintock, Betty McCollum, A. Donald McKeechin, James P. McGovern, Patrick T. McHenry, David B. McKinley, Jerry McNerney, Gregory W. Meeks, Peter Meijer, M-E-I-J-E-R, Grace Meng, Creasy Mafum, M-F-U-M-E, Marionette Miller Meeks, John R. Molinar, Blake D. Moore, Gwen Moore, Joseph D. Morrell, Seth Moulton, Frank J. Mervan, M-R-V-A-N, Stephanie N. Murphy, Gerald Nadler, Grace F. Napolitano, Richard E. Neal, Joe Neguse, Dan Newhouse, Marie Newman, Donald Norcross, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Tom O'Haran, Ilhan Omar, Frank Pallone Jr., Jimmy Panetta, Chris Pappas, Bill Pasquale Jr., Donald M. Payne Jr., Nancy Pelosi, Ed Perlmutter, Scott H. Peters, Dean Phillips, Shelley Pingree, Mark Pocan, Katie Porter, Ayanna Presley, David E. Price, Mike Quigley, Jamie Raskin, Tom Reed, Kathleen M. Rice, Kathy McMorris Rogers, Deborah K. Ross, Chip Roy, Lucille Roybal Allard, Raul Ruiz, C.A. Dutch Rippersberger, Bobby L. Rush, Tim Ryan, Linda T. Sanchez, John P. Sarbanes, Mary Gay Scanlon, Janice D. Schakowsky, Adam B. Schiff, Bradley Scott Schneider, Kurt Schrader, Kim Schreier, Austin Scott, David Scott, Robert C. Scott, Terry A. Sewell, Brad Sherman, Mikey Sherrill, Michael K. Simpson, Albo Sires, Sires, Elisa Slotkin, Adam Smith, Christopher H. Smith, Darren Soto, Abigail Davis Spanberger, Victoria Sparts, Jackie Spear, Greg Stanton, Pete Stauber, Michelle Steele, Brian Steele, Haley M. Stevens, Steve Strivers, Marilyn Strickland, Thomas R. Swozzi, Suozzi, Eric Swalwell, Mark Takano, Van Taylor, Benny G. Thompson, Mike Thompson, Dinah Titus, Rashida Tlaib, Tlaib, Paul Tonko, Norma J. Torres, Richie Torres, Laura Trahan, David J. Trone, Michael R. Turner, Lauren Underwood, Fred Upton, Juan Vargas, Mark A. Visi, Philemon Vela, Nydia M. Velasquez, Ann Wagner, Michael Waltz, Debbie Wassemer Schultz, Maxine Waters, Bonnie Watson Coleman, Peter Welch, Brad R. Wenstrup, Bruce Westerman, Jennifer Wexton, Susan Wild, Nakima Williams, Frederica S. Wilson, Steve Womack, John A. Yarmouth, Don Young. And the following persons named are for their capacities as U.S. Senators: Tammy Baldwin, John Barrasso, Michael F. Bennett, Marsha Blackburn, Richard Blumenthal, Roy Blunt, Corey A. Booker, John Boozman, Mike Braun, Sherrod Brown, Richard Burr, Maria Cantwell, Shelley Capito, Benjamin L. Cardin, Thomas R. Carper, Robert P. Casey Jr., Bill Cassidy, Susan M. Collins, Christopher A. Coons, John Cornyn, Cornyn, Catherine Cortez Masto, Tom Cotton, Kevin Kramer, Mike Crapo, Steve Daines, Tammy Duckworth, Richard J. Durbin, Johnny Ernst, Diane Feinstein, Debbie Fisher, Kirsten E. Gillibrand, Lindsey Graham, Chuck Grassley, Bill Haggerty, Maggie Hassan, Marty Heinrich, John Hickenlooper, Maisie Hirano, John Hoven, James Inhofe, Ron Johnson, Tim Kaine, Mark Kelly, Angus S. King Jr., Amy Klobuchar, James Langford, Patrick Leahy, Mike Lee, Ben Lujan, Cynthia M. Loomis, Joe Manchin III, Edward J. Markey, Mitch McConnell, Robert Menendez, Jeff Merkley, Jerry Moran, Lisa Murkowski, Christopher Murphy, Patty Murray, John Ossoff, Alex Padilla, Rand Paul, Gary C. Peters, Rob Portman, Jack Reed, James E. Rich, R-I-S-C-H, Mitt Romney, Jackie Rosen, Mick Rounds, Marco Rubio, Bernard Sanders, Ben Sassy, Brian Schatz, Charles E. Schumer, Rick Scott, Tim Scott, Jeannie Shaheen, Richard C. Shelby, Kirsten Sinema, Sinema, Tina Smith, Debbie Strabanow, Dan Sullivan, John Tester, John Thune, Tom Tillis, Patrick J. Toomey, Holland Van, Mark R. Warner, Raphael G. Warnock, Elizabeth Warren Sheldon, Elizabeth Warren, Sheldon Whitehouse, Roger F. Wicker, Ron Wyden, Todd Young, Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., in his capacity of President of the United States, Michael Richard Pence in his capacity as former Vice President of the United States, and Kamala Harris, however you want to say it, in her capacity as Vice President of the United States, and John and Jane Doe's 1 through 100. Okay, next page is a table of contents. Questions presented. Okay, just to let you all know, 120 members, before we move on to that table of contents, 121 members of Congress voted certification of Arizona vote total in favor of the written objection, and the defendants voted against the objection were 388, which I just read to you. So these are the numbers that, of course, made it important to file this petition. Okay. Always be grateful for what we do have. Okay, table of contents. We have the questions presented, parties to the proceeding, table of contents, table of authorities, list of proceedings, jurisdiction, Supreme Court Rule 14F provisions, statement of the case, reason for granting this petition, conclusion. And for any of you who are, and then there's the appendix, 10th Circuit order and judgment, appellant's opening brief, trial court judgment, trial court adopting report, trial court report and recommendation, opposition to dismiss. And this is from, again, let me just reiterate what I'm reading to any of you who came in or went out and came back in after that long list of 388. This was received October 24th of 2022. And this is the number 22-380 in the Supreme Court of the United States. Roland J. Brunson, petitioner versus Alma S. Adams, ETAL respondents. And this was denied to be heard today by the Supreme Court. And so I decided to read the petition. From the only spot in my house that was really gonna work to read this from. Okay, so let me get back down to that. I just feel like it's important to be heard so people really understand what was not picked up by our Supreme Court justices today. Okay. We're on page 1 now. List of proceedings. Roland J. Brunson versus Alma S. Adams, ETAL number 1:21-CV-00111-CMR. U.S. District Court for the District of Utah. Judgment entered February 2nd, 2022. Roland J. Brunson versus Alma S. Adams, number 22-4007, U.S. Court of Appeals for the 10th Circuit. Judgment entered October 6, 2022. Jurisdiction is found under 28 U.S.C.A. I don't know what that means. 1257A has the little S and the S. 1257A. Final judgments rendered by the highest court of a state may be reviewed by the Supreme Court by writ of certiorari, where any right or privilege is specially set up or claimed under the statutes of the United States. That was in quotes. Supreme Court Rule 14F provisions. Amendment 1 of the Constitution of the United States. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting ... the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. Article 6 of the Constitution. This Constitution and the laws of the United States which shall be made pursuant thereof ... shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Page 2, 14th Amendment to the Constitution of the United States. Nor shall, it has quotes, ... nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. Section 3. No person shall be a senator or representative in Congress, or elector of president and vice president, or hold any office, civil or military, under the United States or under any state, who, having previously taken an oath, as a member of Congress, or as an officer of the United States, or as a member of any state legislature, or as an executive or judicial officer of any state, to support the Constitution of the United States, shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same, or given aid or comfort to the enemies thereof. But Congress may, by a vote of 2/3 of each house, remove such disability. End quote. Fifth Amendment of the United States Constitution, quote, no person shall, ... be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, ... end quote. Ninth Amendment of the Constitution of the United States, quote, the enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people, end quote. Article 1, Section 7 of the Constitution of Utah, no person shall be deprived of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, end quote. Article 1, Section 2 of the Constitution of Utah, all courts shall be open, ... which shall be administered without denial or unnecessary delay, and no person shall be barred from prosecuting or defending before any tribunal in this state, by himself or counsel, any civil cause to which he is a party. Statement of the case. This action is against 388 federal officers in their official capacities, which include President Joseph Robinette Biden Jr., Vice President Kamala Harris, Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, and former Vice President Michael Richard Pence. In parentheses and quotations, respondents. All the respondents have taken the required oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and as such, they are liable for consequences when they violate the oath of office. Respondents were properly warned and were requested to make an investigation into a highly covert, swift, and powerful enemy, as stated below, seeking to destroy the Constitution in the United States. Respondents purposely thwarted all efforts to investigate this, whereupon this enemy was not checked or investigated. Therefore, the respondents adhered, that's underlined, to this enemy. Because of respondents' intentional refusal to investigate this enemy, Petitioner Rowland J. Brunson in quotes parentheses, brought this action against respondents because he was seriously personally damaged and violated by this action of respondents. And consequently, this action unilaterally violated the rights of every citizen. And consequently, this action unilaterally violated the rights of every citizen of the United States of America, and perhaps the rights of every person living in all courts of law. On January 6, 2021, the 117th Congress held a proceeding and debate in Washington, D.C. This proceeding was for the purpose of counting votes under the 2020 presidential election for the President and Vice President of the United States under Amendment 7. During this proceeding, over 100 members of United States Congress claimed factual evidence that the said election was rigged. Over 100 members of U.S. Congress claimed factual evidence that the said election was rigged. The refusal of the respondents, and just for a repeat, I'm reading the petition to the United States of the Supreme Court. This is a public and legal document of the petition to the United States of America, of the Supreme Court of the United States of America. During this proceeding, over 100 members of U.S. Congress claimed factual evidence that the said election was rigged. The refusal of the respondents to investigate this congressional claim, in parentheses, it says, the enemy, is an act of treason and fraud by respondents. A successfully rigged election has the same end result as an act of war to place into power whom the victor wants, which in this case is Biden, who, if not stopped immediately, will continue to destroy the fundamental freedoms of Brunson and all U.S. citizens and courts of law. Due to the fact that this case represents a national security breach on an unprecedented level, like never before seen, seriously damaging and violating Brunson, and coincidentally affects every citizen of the USA and courts of law. Therefore, Brunson moves this court to grant this petition, or in the alternative, without continuing further, order the trial court to grant Brunson's complaint in its fullest. Brunson's complaint is the mechanism that can immediately remove the respondents from office without leaving this country vulnerable without a president and vice president. Despite the grave importance of this case, the trial court granted respondents' motion to dismiss, in parentheses, quotes, says motion, by stating it is ordered and adjudged that plaintiff Rowland Brunson action is dismissed without prejudice. That's the order. This order followed the trial court's order to adopt its report and recommendations that Brunson did not get until close to the beginning of October 2022, thus prejudicing Brunson from timely filing any objections, and the order did not properly address Brunson's opposition to the motion. Brunson's opposition clearly shows that Brunson has standing. Per Brunson's opening brief and as outlined in Brunson's said opposition, both not properly addressed by the lower courts, Brunson's has standing and the trial court has full proper jurisdiction to rule on the merits of this case based upon the following factors. A. The case of American Bush versus City of South Salt Lake, 2006, Utah 4140, UT 4140, P.3D.1235 clearly states that the Constitution of the United States, along with state constitutions, do not grant rights to the people. These instruments measure the power of the rulers, but they do not measure the rights of the governed, and they are not the fountain of law, nor the origin of the people's rights, but they have been put in place to protect their rights. Therefore, the statutes and case laws cited by respondents claiming immunity from Brunson's claim in this instance are unconstitutional, and this court needs to rule in that manner. B. The enumeration in the Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. Therefore, the purpose of the Constitution was written to protect our self-evident rights. The Constitution cannot be construed by any means by any legislative, judicial, and executive bodies, by any court of law, to deny or disparage our rights. This is the supreme law of the land. This Constitution and the law, this is in quotes, this Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made pursuance thereof, shall be the supreme law of the land, and the judges in every state shall be bound thereby. Article 6 of the Constitution. C. The First Amendment of the Constitution states that Congress shall make no law prohibiting the right of the people to petition the government for a redress of grievances. D. Our courts have consistently held that fraud vitiates whatever it touches. Morris v. House, Morris v. House, 32 Text. 492, 1870. Estate of Stonecipher versus Estate of Butts, 591 Southwest, or SW, 591 SW 2D 806. And it is a stern but just maxim of law that fraud vitiates everything into which it enters. Veteran Service Club versus Sweeney, 252 SW 2D 2527, KY 1952. Radio Shack Corporation versus ComSmart Incorporated, 222 SW 3D 256. Vitiate, to impair or make void, to destroy or annul, either completely or partially, the force and effect of an act or instrument. End quote. West Encyclopedia of American Law. So vitiate, quote, to impair or make void, to destroy or annul, either completely or partially, the force and effect of an act or instrument, end quote. And that was West Encyclopedia of American Law, edition 2. E. Due to the uniqueness of this case, the trial court does have proper authority to remove the respondents from their offices under 18 U.S. Code 2381, which states, whoever owing allegiance to the United States levies war against them or adheres to their enemies, giving them aid and comfort within the United States or elsewhere, is guilty of treason, and shall suffer death, or shall be imprisoned not less than 5 years, and fined under this title, but not less than $10,000, and shall be incapable of holding any office under the United States. End quote. Adjudicating that the respondents who have taken the oath of office to be incapable of holding their offices or who have adhered to a domestic enemy means nothing without such removal of office. Under the stated factors, Brunson has an unfettered right to sue the respondents under the serious nature of his claim. No legislation can measure Brunson's right to sue the respondents. Furthermore, Brunson's allegations against respondents adhering to a domestic enemy and committing acts of fraud are not protected by any kind of legislation of jurisdictional immunity. Essentially, acts of Congress cannot protect fraud, nor protect the violation of the oath, or that give aid and comfort to enemies of the United States Constitution or America, as alleged in Brunson's complaint against the respondents. These are facts that cannot be overcome. Therefore, Brunson found no need to include this petition a copy of respondents' opposition to Brunson's opening brief or any of their arguments. Nevertheless, Brunson's opening brief does touch upon respondents' immunity arguments and shows how respondents do not, nor can they, overcome Brunson's arguments as stated herein. It is an uncontestable fact that the respondents committed fraud and treason, breaching our national security, as factually alleged in Brunson's complaint, thus adhering to a domestic enemy that continues to breach our national security at an alarming rate on a daily basis. This national security breach is having the same end result as an act of war to place into power whom the respondents want, which is Biden. Brunson moves this court with its powers to order the trial court of this case to immediately grant to Brunson the damages he seeks in his complaint. This is necessary to immediately secure our national security without any further delay. Turning now to the doctrine of equitable maxim created by this court, this doctrine stands in direct conflict of the doctrine of the object principle of justice. The doctrine of the object principle of justice is couched by the supreme law of the land and sets in motion to provide our court system to be the most just, limited, highly effective, and easy to understand, and infuses our court system to be the most highly respected and dearly admired court system greater than the world has ever seen. The doctrine of equitable maxim kills this, and had the trial court been guided by the object principle of justice, this appeal would not be necessary. In addition, the doctrine of the object principle of justice stops the precarious nature of our courts. Their jobs would be much easier with less stress, and parties in court would have a strong sense on how the court is going to rule, thus promoting settlements to a high degree, and as such, lawsuits and appeals would be greatly reduced. This is an absolute fact. Page 8. Jurisprudence requires this court to revoke the doctrine of equitable maxim that is created and to instill the doctrine of the object principle of justice more thoroughly throughout the entire court system in America. The doctrines of equitable maximum and the object principle of justice are fully explained in a petition before this court under docket number 18-1147. To avoid being repetitious, Brunson herein incorporates the argument found therein as though fully stated herein and moves this court to address the question either under this petition or docket number 18-1147. Reasons for granting this petition. Brunson's complaint alleges fraud, violation of the oath of office, and touches on acts of treason committed by the respondents. These serious offenses need to be addressed immediately with the least amount of technical nuances of the law and legal procedures, because these offenses are flowing continually against Brunson's liberties and life, and consequently is a continual national security breach. Voting is the greatest power an individual can exercise in a republic. It is Brunson's personal voice and the way he can protect his personal constitutional protected rights and the U.S. Constitution. See paragraph 71 of the complaint. when the allegations of a rigged, see paragraph 71 of the complaint. When the alleged allegations of a rigged election come forward, the respondents had a duty under law to investigate it or be removed from office. An honest and fair election can only be supported by legal votes. This is sacred. It is the basis of our U.S. Republican form of government, protected by the U.S. Constitution. The efforts made, as stated in the complaint, that avoided an investigation of how Biden won the election is an act of treason and an act of levying war against the U.S. Constitution, which violated Brunson's unfettered right to vote in an honest and fair election, and as such, it wrongfully invalidated his vote. As a national security interest, Brunson moves this court to be swift by going beyond granting this petition. It should order the lower court to grant Brunson's complaint to avoid any further delay. Conclusion. This petition is set forth in the interest of justice in protecting Brunson's right to petition for a redress of grievances against the respondents and ensuring his right of due process against the encroachment of the doctrine of equitable maxim, and charging the respondents who failed to investigate the allegations of a rigged election by having them removed from office without further delay. Dated October 13th, 2022, and it was respectfully submitted by Roland J. Brunson. It gives his address, number, etc. And that is it. And our Supreme Court justices denied this being heard. This morning at 9:30 it was announced that Brunson v. Adams was denied to be heard. Okay. I just wanted to read it and make sure that everybody had a chance that wanted to hear the petition. Yeah, and that's great news that they will submit a petition for reconsideration according to their Twitter. Thank you for posting that. You're welcome. I'm so grateful to all of you who came here to hear this. And please share it out. Let's get this to as many people to help them to understand what's happening. One of my representatives that I absolutely could not vote for again, who had done a lot to help our recovery community here in Anne Arundel County, and in my area. And John Sarbanes did not get my vote again this year. I've been on many of his town hall meetings, etc. He's thanked me for the work that I've done in my recovery community, for our recovery community. And I could not vote for him. I cross over when I feel like people are coming from the same values and moral values, etc., that I have. I will cross over from my party that I'm listed under to vote for whom I feel is the best, and I voted for him in the past, and I could not vote for him again. So this was one of the reasons, because he's on that list of 388. Well, drummers again, I would hate to see that happen. As many of us feel that's would be devastating for all of us to see that happen. So we got to pray for peace and justice. So probably a scary thing for the justices to have voted in favor of hearing this, And but that doesn't matter. They have sworn oaths. And you can't perform justice afraid. No, we definitely do not want war. It is disappointing. It is. But it was a long shot. Excuse me. All that coffee. It was definitely a long shot that it would have been picked up this time. So we're grateful. We're so grateful. I am so grateful for the Brunson brothers. Good morning, everyone. Oh, that is the Hampton Classic. When I was bartending out in the Hamptons in 1992. That's an equestrian event that's held every year that's very popular. And I had one of my customers there at the post house where I bartended gave me a print, and they are so sought after that thing. Somebody would like to add that to their collection of all the years. But I love it. So Mom had it framed for me, and I just love it. We cannot stop trying. We never, ever, ever give up. It is under God to never give up on God's justice and what's right. Yeah, we have to pray for them. We have to pray for their strength and for them to do the right thing. Absolutely. I continue and I admit it, God knows my heart. I have to take a big breath but I pray for this current administration. I pray for this current administration on a regular to, for God to soften their hearts if it's part of his bigger plan, that they will do what's right for the people, and to cut the strings of the puppet masters that are pulling their strings. I keep my prayers pretty simple. In my terms, right? Glory be terms. No, Jennifer terms. That's right. You eat an elephant or an apple, one bite at a time. You name it. Yeah. No matter how big or small it is. So that is out there. Please like it and share it. I don't want to make this video too long. And I can't thank you all enough for coming on here. There's so much good still in the world. Don't ever give up hope. God is greater and bigger than all of this. He will use this towards his greater plan. And just remember, he loves us. He has mercy. He is our faithful God. And always, always glory be to God. Thank you all so much. Thank you, mods, for being here too. I love you, and I love my bumbles, and we're gonna keep eating this apple and elephant one bite at a time. God bless you all. Have a great day, and I will see you later, for sure.